apologize. I'm so sorry I don't speak Korean, so it's going to be in English. Mr. Tsutsumi, Mr. Young, and I went to study with Starker when he was at the height of his career. He played over 100 concerts a year, and his recordings were cherished and loved everywhere, and he was renowned in 5 continents. We all knew he was a child prodigy in Budapest, and his more recent past seemed just as amazing. He was first cellist in Dallas, at the Metropolitan Opera, and at the Chicago Symphony Orchestra, which seemed it led perfectly as to the distinguished professorship at Indiana University, where we were the lucky students. Only when Professors Yang Sang-won and Tsuyoshi Tsutsumi asked me to speak about Starker's early years did I realize that I never knew much about it. In spite of seeing him and traveling with him frequently and making innumerable meals for him, he was a very private person and rarely mentioned anything about his early years. It took reading his autobiography for me to realize what he had gone through and what he had survived. He was a child prodigy, a pupil of Schiffer, Popper, Weiner, and Waldbauer, and a student at the Franz Liszt Academy in Budapest. He performed at theaters and in private residences and caused sensations, performing Locatelli Sonata at age 12, Dvorak Concerto at age 14, and Kodai Solo Sonata at age 15 in 1939. It certainly sounds like a fantastic youth, but World War II started when he entered school and started to play the cello. And the war ended when he was 21, and his whole early life was fraught with danger. His father, a tailor, immigrated from Russia, and his mother from Poland. His mother saved every penny the father made to have music lessons for her 3 boys. As Jews in Hungary, their lives became more and more difficult as anti-Semitism grew and restrictions began to be more severe, and the economy became worse with the depression. Although a rising star, Janusz Starker was just a resident alien in constant fear of deportation and persecution. It was only with the help of his friends and Eva, his future wife, that Starker was able to survive by being told when and where to hide. Sometimes he had to take on menial jobs just to earn money for food. Later, he was arrested and sent to an internment camp where he had to dig latrines, repair roofs, and neutralize unexploded bombs. Both of his brothers were killed in the war. After the war, at age 21, he accepted the position of first cellist of the Budapest Philharmonic and Opera, and finally got a Hungarian passport. This passport made it possible for him to leave Hungary and move to Vienna. Vienna had been bombed, and the starving population was controlled by the 4 victorious nations, a month at a time, and Starker still remembered the smell of salted herring when the Russians had their months where they were in control. He survived by playing everywhere he could, including for American troops. After one of the performances in Vienna, where he always received highly complimentary reviews, one critic compared his performance to that of a sleepwalker on a tightrope. Starker was struck by this comparison, and it got him thinking about practicing and playing. A few days later, he heard Yehudi Menuhin play, whom he had admired in Budapest when he had played and performed at age 14. Now in Vienna, Menuhin was struggling to play the violin. His bow shook and his breathing was labored. This event scared Starker, thinking it might happen to him, and it initiated a lifelong effort to learn everything he could about physical, mental, and acoustical principles of string playing. It probably started the creation of his organized method of string playing, using minimal energy with maximum power available. And being aware of power descending from the back into flexible arms and fingers, he developed the principle of pendulums and circles and the anticipation of every aspect in music making. Starke actually even became one of 8 subjects to come to the laboratory in Bloomington, where I researched bow arms at different speeds of spiccato playing. He would have also liked to find out why one performance can be perceived so differently. Some people are moved to tears and other people find it cold and boring. So because of this discrepancy, he wanted to invent an instrument he called Mozart meter to objectively measure beauty, phrasing, and interpretation, which is naturally impossible. Starker practiced his new principles in preparation for the competition in Geneva, where he only achieved a bronze medal. As he did not want to go back to Hungary, he went to live in Paris with his wife, Eva. In his autobiography, he states that he still was wondering how they could survive the time in France. He played every opportunity. He was helped by Tortelier to meet Fournier, famous cellist, and Fournier presented him with the opportunity to play on the radio, which made him known throughout France. This in turn gave him the chance to record Kodály solo sonata in 1948. He did it in one day on wax recordings. The composition was cut actually to fit 8 sides of the tiny recordings. This recording won the Grand Prix du Disque and established Starker as a world-class cellist. After hearing about Starker in France and hearing his Kodály recording, the conductor Antal Dorati offered Starker a position as principal cellist of the Dallas Symphony. But he, like many Hungarian refugees surviving in France, was waiting for a visa. American visas were allotted by quotas, which college professors and teachers being preferred over performing musicians. Dorati asked Dean Bain at Indiana University to offer Starker a professorship, which made him eligible for a visa so he could accept the position in Dallas. In Dallas, Starker learned the new symphonic repertory and played many recitals and concerts. But already in 1950 he left because Fritz Reiner, the conductor, offered him the position of principal cellist of the Metropolitan Opera. Now you should think he has made it no more sorrows because he's principal cellist of Metropolitan, but in spite of all the work for the opera, he, in addition to all the responsibilities, he played Menotti's The Council 120 times over the summer just to make ends meet. Starker also spent many nights in a church recording the records that made him so famous, while working full-time playing the operas. After 4 years of incredible work in New York, Reiner asked Starker to join him in Chicago in the symphony, as principal cellist, and Starker writes that it seemed like a vacation after New York. While Starker played principal of the Chicago Orchestra, he also played many solo concerts with them. He played Beethoven Triple, Prokofiev Sinfonia, Schumann Saint-Saëns concertos, Brahms Double Concerto, Hindemith Concerto, Strauss Don Quixote. And he played with many famous conductors such as Beecham, Stokowski, Stravinsky, amongst many others. In 1954, he succeeded in becoming an American citizen. Having a US passport allowed him to travel the world and start his career as soloist. At his debut concert in London's Wigmore Hall, the London Times wrote, "A legend materializes." And he got lots of concerts right after his debut. But in 1956, he succeeded in bringing his parents and Eva's, his wife's parents, from Hungary just before the Russian tanks rolled in. And so he decided to stay another year at the Chicago Orchestra because he had to support his wife's parents, his own parents, and his own family with Eva and Gabriela, his daughter. In 1958, Dean Bain offered him the teaching position at Indiana University, which secured him a stable income and freed him to concertize. So Starker started a new life in Bloomington with a new American wife and a new American daughter, Gwen, who is here right now. He played concerts globally and returned from them to Indiana University, where he was a very demanding teacher who mellowed slowly over 50 years. Bloomington became a mecca for cellists. One year we had 84 cello students enrolled. Starker also initiated a successful cello congress in 1986 and was celebrated with Rostropovich for his 75th birthday. Each year he honored a cellist who had done exceptional work for his cause, which meant teaching and playing the cello. He also premiered compositions written for him and kept a busy recording schedule. One time he asked me to listen to him while he was recording Popper pieces with the wonderful pianist Shigeo Neriki. I was struck by the equilibrium and the nonchalance and the friendly atmosphere he created, as well as the incredible focus and concentration as he sat down to record almost every piece in one take. As a student in Bloomington, one of my first lessons during Starker's absence was with Tsuyoshi Tsutsumi, and I still remember playing Fifth Bach Suite for him, and he was a much nicer teacher than Mr. Starker. Later, Tsuyoshi competed internationally and taught in Canada, and I taught Starker's students as well as my own class. And I was so lucky to be able to work with young someone who became a friend even. Now here and everywhere, there are many of our students and their students respectively, and all of you in which Starker's legacy lives on. His incredible discipline, his generosity, his lifelong journey for knowledge and beauty and perfection in music making.